talking to Chief Minister Alfred Cannan, and you had some fairly stern words for the departing Health Minister this morning.
Well, yeah, I needed to make absolutely clear that this fabrication of privatisation that he accused me and the Council of Ministers of was a fabrication. It was his clear strategy to avoid taking any responsibility for the financial position that Manx Care finds itself in. And I accept that he's finding it too much and he wants to walk away, and that he just thinks we should bring in more taxation in to pay for more health care. And so the cycle goes on and on. I and the Council of Ministers want to find a responsible solution to this, and we also need to be in a position of absolutely ensuring that the healthcare system is capable of spending to its budgets, and we also understand what it can deliver for its budget. And a lot of that, as you will have seen from the audit report that the Minister's been sitting on for the last 6 months, there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and that must be approached as an immediate priority before anybody starts talking about more taxation and more funding for a healthcare service. And we've heard from clinicians and doctors over the last few months that they believe that that is a red herring, and that actually efficiency and effective performance within Manx Care is the answer, not more money.
And that report, it's quite concerning. You've obviously shared it with Tynwald members because you referred to it in your speech, and it says things like a review of financial management at Manx Care concluded an unacceptable assurance rating for both design and application of financial controls. It also said overall there's a lack of management actions to address overspending areas, which would help to push greater assurance that management is actively managing financial performance. These are quite disturbing things to read in a report about how Manx Care is working.
So absolutely. So it's not right to go and purport the message continuously that Manx Care is underfunded when there is absolute clear evidence that the system itself, that the organisation itself needs to get on top of its financial controls, its financial planning and its financial management. Now we need to make sure that it has the tools to do that. But do it we must, and we must do that at a very fast pace. We have another budget coming forward in a matter of months' time, and Tynwald, on behalf of the public, must be going into that budget with some confidence that the healthcare system knows how it is about to apply the money it's going to receive, and also that we understand what we are going to receive for that money. So that is the first point that needs to address it. It's not right for people just to sit on that level of audit report with that type of exposure being reported and then continue to claim it's purely a funding issue. So before we get to funding and how that may be applicable in the future, if indeed it is needed, we need to know for certain that the organisation is spending its money effectively.
And perhaps we should maybe get a little bit of clarity on that report, because Lawrie Hooper is now suggesting, bearing in mind he hasn't actually heard what you said, so he's sort of reserving his comments a little bit, but he is suggesting that perhaps you've misled Tynwald in relation to that report. What is your understanding about the report? When did Council of Ministers get an opportunity to see it?
Well, Council of Ministers, I released that report as interim health minister, and Council never saw that report until I released it, and I made that choice as minister because one of the very first things I established literally in the last 24 hours is that report existed, and that there were a number of clear requirements laid out in that report that needed to be addressed. Now, I understand that some further action has been taken, but my absolute point is that that report existed. That level of detail in terms of a clear requirement for Manx Care's team to get a grip of the financial performance issue was absolutely made crystal clear. And therefore the minister's continued exhortation that they were underfunded was not the full story, and that we needed to know more. And the critical point, of course, who's misled Tynwald? It is in fact the minister by claiming that I and the Council of Ministers want privatisation. That is a falsehood and was a slur on council. I made that point today. But the critical point is, Phil, points have been made. I'm not going into a tit for tat with Lawrie Hooper. Tynwald made its clear expression today that they want now to get on and sort out the issues, and that's what I'm going to do, along with a number of colleagues I know who want to get in and get some of these issues resolved as quickly as possible. Should you, bearing in mind, I mean, it was pretty obvious there was a breakdown between you and Lawrie Hooper. You know, the various public comments, both from yourself and indeed from the minister, or former minister now. Should you have sacked him? Well, look, I think you would have had to have been fairly ignorant in my position not to have been aware that he was trying to get himself into a position, or contrive himself, in my view, into a position where he would either get sacked. In the end, he chose to resign. I'm clearly sorry that someone's chosen to resign, but clearly his positioning in terms of just expecting everything to be funded from taxation was at odds with the majority view, the very strong majority view in council. And I think we've all recognised, even before this report was brought forward, that Manx Care needed to clearly demonstrate value for money in terms of the money that they've been getting, and they needed to properly address some of the concerns that have been very publicly laid out by the Medical Society, and they shouldn't just be dismissed. There have been a number of other issues raised this morning in debate by honourable members that they want to see addressed. It will take a collective drive to resolve some of this. There is absolutely a role for Tynwald in this. There's a role for the DHSC, the administer, and there's an absolute role for Manx Care. I think we should all need to come together. Some of these factions need to come together now. We need to understand quickly where those issues are, and I think some of them were pointed out on the floor today, and we need to drive to resolution so that Manx Care as an organisation can move forward together, and Tynwald can move forward with some clarity about the funding position and also the mandate position in terms of what we're expecting from Manx Care in terms of delivery. Do you understand, though, why some members are concerned that Council of Ministers was not, well, according to the Health Minister, was not prepared to unequivocally state that they believe in a health service free at the point of delivery? Do you understand why they might see that as actually there's going to be elements of the NHS that will be charged for, that perhaps some elements of the service will be contracted out? Do you see where that might come from? No, because I think this is pretty much a contrived position that's been put in front of the Council of Ministers in order to achieve an end objective by the Health Minister, which was his resignation, in order he can go and pursue his own political ideologies and beliefs, and that's fine. Council of Ministers, quite rightly, sensibly, have taken the position of saying, before anybody comes to us and starts telling us that we've got to raise certain levels of taxation, we need evidence that the system is running and managing itself properly from a financial perspective. It has financial discipline applied, that budget holders know what their budgets are and how to manage those, and that the money that it is being given is being spent effectively and in the right places. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest there is a lot of work to do in that area. We need to address that as quickly as possible. That's my very first task. I met with Treasury this morning. I met with the Chief Officer from DHSC. We are working now with Manx Care to get in place those individuals with the expertise and experience to help get that to us, to that position. And most importantly, we need to be able to apply that to the budget next year. Only then, and with proper analysis, will we then be in a position to determine whether or not we are underfunded, inverted commas, and how one might then set about addressing it. And well, that will not be an immediate and quick solution. We do need proper public engagement if indeed that is the case. But plenty of people are saying there are other ways to address this, and that we need to listen to some of the people delivering the healthcare in more detail in order to get and drive forward the efficiencies and effectiveness from an operational perspective. Most importantly, to deliver better outcomes, of course, in all this for the people of the island. Mr Hooper has told me in an interview yesterday that he asked
in the last financial year for assistance from Treasury to try and pull together the problems or try and resolve some of the problems that Manx Care was facing in terms of managing its budget, and was told that no help was available. He would need to just use shared services. Apparently, subsequently, Treasury is now stepping in and trying to help. Is that your recollection of events?
Well, clearly I'm not in every meeting, and I don't necessarily know what discussions have happened between Treasury and a minister at any particular given point. What I do know, Phil, is that there is clear evidence, as I've said before, that the Manx Care financial management and process in terms of its strategic planning needs quick improvement, and that needs to be done. I also think that in all this, people have to take responsibility. Whether that's the minister, whether that's Manx Care, whether that's Manx Care's board, whether it's those responsible for budgetary controls, we have to have some responsibility. I think we need to stop this constant moaning, and we need to start delivering within the budgets that we have got to the very, very best capability. And if that means having difficult decisions about some of the options around delivery for Manx Care in terms of some of the services they're delivering, then we need to have those. But we need to have those before the financial year, not 6 months into the financial year or 7 months into the financial year, and puts everybody in a difficult position. And finally, I must just emphasise, this. I know that some of this over-expenditure has been going on for years in different levels and different places within the healthcare system. But the fundamental point is, after a 10%, effectively a 2 pence, but 10% rise in income tax last year, right, an extra £43 million, a condition promise that they were going to stay within budget, to smash that by £16 million, their forecast is £16 million, is going to cause us real problems. Effectively, this compound overspend is just being built in more and more into future budgets. And the cost of delivery of healthcare in the current trajectory, without any changes, will damage our reserves in a serious way, and we need to address it, Phil, and we've got to be responsible. And one of the reasons why I've had to be so forceful about this is because I have an absolute level of responsibility to you, to the public, to make sure that people understand that there is a potential problem if we do not get the solutions. And I hope that by being bold enough to stand up and identify that, despite all the trauma that's coming with it, we can actually move ourselves into a better position.
One of the problems associated, and I know this from my own experience, particularly in the Department of Infrastructure, you do, as a politician, you spend all your time working with the staff in a particular department. You get to fully understand and appreciate all their issues and problems. And I think the term is you end up going native. Do you think that's what's happened with Lawrie Hooper?
Well, listen, look, Lawrie Hooper is a bright, intelligent person, but he's clearly gone off at a tangent from his colleagues. That's fine. He was very clear yesterday. He knew he had to resign, and he's done that. He could have been a bit more forthcoming with his plans and allowed at least some courtesy of informing his colleagues in advance. And we could have done without the fabrication and slur around privatisation, because that's absolutely never been mentioned at all around the Council of Ministers table, and neither is it, to the best of my knowledge, held either by me or any of my colleagues. But what we do hold is I believe, a sensible position of wanting Manx Care to get back into some sort of financial order, to have trust in that financial position, and then to understand more fully whether, in fact, this underfunding argument, which continues to be put forward, is accurate, because we've given the organisation so much more money. And if indeed that does prove to be the case in the future, then we need, we've got that assurance that the finances are operating is to the very best of our ability. Then, of course, we need then to start discussing what else we might need to consider. But we need to do that as an island, and not just in an individual silo, or just because the Liberal Cannan Party thinks so.
already, and we're recording this interview on Wednesday morning, Lawrie Hooper has responded to your statement on Twitter, suggesting that it was outrageous and asking whether your ministers are prepared to follow someone who will react in this sort of way. Are you concerned that perhaps a rebellion will come, that a vote of confidence or no confidence in the government is likely to be the next move?
Well, I need to also take the responsibilities of ensuring that where I believe there is a real crisis point, that the issues around that are properly brought to the fore. And that's why I've had to raise this issue so publicly around Manx Care and the financial performance and the need for it to get back into budget and the reasons for that and the long-term consequences on our funding. So I have to take it within my stride. Clearly, the health minister is disenfranchised. He will do everything now possible to undermine and destabilise, because that's what the Liberal Vannon Party want, and some elements of the Labour Party. They want capital gains taxes, they want inheritance taxes, they want higher income taxes. My position is very clear, as is my colleagues within council, before we go anywhere down that route: efficient, effective delivery within budgets so that we understand what we can and can't pay for, and particularly we need to sort that out before the budget next year.
So there's a distraction and we just need to get on with the job. Is that pretty much your message?
Absolutely. It is a big issue. It is of national concern. But we now need to take the steps necessary, and that's really about providing the right financial support to Manx Care to get this problem resolved, get it resolved to the satisfaction of the Treasury Minister, so he can present his budget. And then, as I say, we need to make sure we've got the services that are being delivered properly within that budget. We understand what those services are, and then we can move on properly to understand if we want more services or increased delivery in some areas, how that might be appropriately funded. And of course, that's the wider challenge for Tynwald, but also it does involve the community's input into reaching any fundamental changes, because this is a whole island problem and it shouldn't just be stuck in an ideological box.
And very, very finally then, any ideas who would be willing to take on the Department of Health and Social Care's challenges as the new minister?
I think we had a couple of volunteers this morning, and certainly a couple of names put forward. Look, I will consider that in the next 2 or 3 days. What I do need to do is get going with some of these issues in terms of addressing them. I've now seen this Kirby consultancy report about the position of Manx Care. I know some work has been going on, but we need action now, Phil. Not more reports, not more consultations. I need action with Manx Care in terms of this. We will work that together. I'm sure there are people in Manx Care and the Chief Executive Officer and the board who want to see this resolved as quickly as possible. We'll get that done. We'll get the budget prepared for next year. And also in the meantime, I'll be considering who supports from Tynwald members in terms of the department, who comes in as a minister, and how we also engage with Tynwald and the greater public where needed in terms of resolving any other issues, particularly around service delivery.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio Newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.